to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Folks, just a quick reminder on cell phones, we are on silent vibration.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. Board of Commissioners, public meeting Tuesday, July 17, 2018. The time is 7:43. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, notice of this meeting was published in the December 14, 2017 issues of the Nutley Sun, the Herald News, and the Star Ledger. A copy of this notice has been posted on the Nutley Town Hall Bulletin Board, and a copy is on file in the Municipal Clerk's office. Commissioner Rogers?
Aye. Here.
Commissioner Tucci?
Here.
Commissioner Evans?
Here.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Let's go to minutes, Madam Clerk.
Yes, we have Board of Commissioner meeting minutes for May 15, 2018. I need a motion.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
And that's it for minutes.
Communications?
Communications. The Rotary Club of Nutley has submitted an event application to hold their first classic car show on Wednesday, September 12, 2018, from 3:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Franklin Avenue between Chestnut Street and Center Street. I need a motion, please.
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
And that's it for communications, Mayor.
Let's go to reports. I have various monthly progress reports. Commissioner Evans?
I have the Code Enforcement Department reports for the month of, I think it's month of July and the quarter of the second quarter.
Commissioner Tucci?
Yes, I have a shade tree report for the month of June.
Commissioner Petracco?
I have a police, fire, municipal court, and our ambulance squad report, our monthly report also.
Mayor, correction, my report for the month of, monthly report is for June, not July.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam Clerk, bills?
Yes, Mayor. Bill list for July 17, 2018 is as follows. Public Affairs, $109,202.51. Revenue and Finance, $3,449,366.01. Public Safety, $50,078.26. Public Works, $78,582.18. Parks and Public Property, $380,121.45. Water Utility, $21,329.56. Total payroll is $808,389.35, for a grand total of $4,897,069.32.
Move the bills.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
That's it for bills, Mayor.
Public comment on agenda items only. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 3 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board shall determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue. I have a question on the bill list, Parks and Public Property, Buyer Fleet LLC, $30,570. Would that be a purchase of a vehicle?
Yes, that was a truck.
Okay, thank you. And then on the reports, thank you everyone for your reports. The Department of Public Works, I think the reports are pretty detailed, but I noticed that for the Road and Recycling Division, the report says the same thing every month for like the past 9 months now, except for the differences in the tonnage of recycling. And, you know, they indicate reflectors are placed on all dead-end barricades. Dead-end barricades were painted throughout the township. I don't even think we have that many dead-end streets, do we?
We have enough of them, yes.
So every month they have to paint barricades and put reflectors on them.
I'm sure it's done, consistently.
Okay, it's just surprising. I didn't think we had that many dead-end streets. But in line with that, I think there was mention earlier this year of a purchase of, I guess, smartphone equipment or cellular equipment in order to allow for on-site real-time reporting. So is that implemented?
We're actually having training on that tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
Anybody else like to address the Board of Commissioners on agenda items only? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public comment?
Move it.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Commissioner announcements, commissioners?
None?
Mayor, I just like to thank everybody on the board for attending my brother-in-law's wake and funeral today. It was very nice of you to come, and I appreciate it. I also want to thank the Nutley Police Department, the escort they gave my brother-in-law, who suffered from brain cancer and was bedridden for two years. And it puts things in perspective for all of us, how bad our day really is. And the poor guy had a smile on his face every time I went to see him. But the Nutley Police Department, along with Clifton, did an excellent job with the escort, and I appreciate our neighboring towns' help, and I appreciate all the condolences from the residents, the family, and all my friends and our board. Thank you.
Our prayers and condolences go out to your family, Commissioner. Mr. Diaz, you ready?
Good evening. I think we have some continuing things to show you as a carryover from 2 weeks ago. But during that time period, I just want to express our thanks and gratitude to the council and their professionals for incredible amount of work that took place in those 2 weeks to appropriately address in the redevelopment plan a lot of the concerns and the issues that you raised in our discussions and pointed out to us. And I know that your staff worked tirelessly to try and get us to this point tonight, where hopefully you can take positive action, affirmative action, and move this redevelopment plan forward. So I do want to thank you, and PRISM thanks you. I do want to say one thing on that is that I'm always cognizant sometimes of not wanting to become a victim of our own successes. And thus far, over the last 24 months, we've accomplished an awful lot, and we've created a tremendous amount of momentum behind this overall project. And I think that's great. We're all seeing some of those fruits with some of these leases and things. But I do want to stress to everybody overall, at the end of the day, including the public, and I know is always interested in what's happening here, is that momentum is a very tricky thing. Right now, it's on our side, and it's going great. But no deal is a done deal, really, until that ink is dry and, what I call butts are in the seats in their office buildings, right? Even things that people think are a fait accompli, like the Quest transaction in Clifton. Well, that's not a done deal yet. And that still is going to take and require, on Clifton's side, swift and decisive action yet by their council, much the same way as we're asking Nutley for swift and decisive action on this side, so that we can surely lock in the Ralph Lauren transaction and complete the deal here to make room for also people at 200 Metro. So I do appreciate all the work and effort that's gone into this, but I do want everyone to keep apprised that there's still, we're only partially way there. Roche was a tenant there for 87 years. There's a lot more to happen on this campus, and we all have to continue to work together in a cooperative fashion I think we've exhibited so far to keep this moving forward. So tonight I'd like to finish up with a presentation on changes that we anticipate making to the formerly known Building 102, which we now call 111 Ideation Way, which was the biochemical research building, sort of on the very easternly portion of the campus. That's the building that has been occupied in part by Modern Meadow and additional research functions from the Hackensack Meridian Health Organization as part of their National Cancer Institute research function. So we intend on presenting sort of two things today: is a change to the site plan to accommodate additional surface parking on the site. The building is approximately 155,000-foot building. Because it's biomedical research, it has a lower overall parking requirement than traditional office. We have, with a fully rented building between the Hackensack organization and the Modern Meadow organization, and the space being leased by NJIT's Innovation Institute, we have a total demand of 495 parking spaces for that 155,000-foot building. We can accommodate, in tonight's presentation you'll see that the current parking lot was inefficiently configured. We're really not expanding it particularly much at all. We're just straightening out the edges, making it more appropriate for sort of vehicular access and islands as opposed to how it was built out previously. It houses today somewhere about 140 parking spaces on that lot, and that's it. With some changes to that area by reconfiguring, realigning, we should be able to grow that parking lot to about 235 plus or minus parking spaces on surface. The balance of the parking for that building, as you know from our previous discussions and your approvals of the med school application, we have the ability and the rights and are continuing with our transaction with Hackensack to add the additional spaces for this building in a parking structure to be constructed in Clifton for the med school and to satisfy the balance of the parking for the 111 building. So I just want to make it clear for you that all of the parking for this building will not be housed on its particular lot. About half will be. The other half will be in a garage that's going to be constructed in Clifton as part of the med school application, just so everyone is fully aware of that. So at this point, I think we could bring up our civil engineers to present the parking layout, followed by our landscape designer to show you how that area is going to continue to be green and landscape and the buffers between the adjacent residential housing.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board of Commissioners. My name's Steve Powers, 153 Corderville Road, Southborough, Massachusetts. We are the civil engineer for the prison project. The On3 project, we were in front of you a couple weeks ago. While my colleague is pulling up the Building 102 parking redevelopment that Mr. Diaz had brought up, I do want to bring up two changes we did make to the garage plan.
Can you move the mic closer?
Closer? Yeah,
There you
okay.
go.
I always have a problem with this.
If you want to take it out and hold it.
Maybe I will. So we did make two minor changes based on a comment by Commissioner Evans during our working session, as well as Mr. Abramson. We did, along the garage, we did increase the pedestrian walkway, which is parallel to the railroad on the southwest corner of the garage, between 8 and 10 feet, various spots where we could squeeze that in. Did cut back slightly on the landscaping, but we do accommodate a lot of landscaping as well. So that is one thing. And Mr. Abramson brought up some comments regarding pedestrian crossing from the garage to the common area. And there was a discussion about bringing in sort of a raised table to accommodate 100 to 150 feet across the road to get to the common area. What we did was we ended up putting in a couple of raised crosswalks. And these raised crosswalks are per the New Jersey school system crosswalks. They will be designed accordingly. So I just want to bring up those two items. The main topic we're going to go through is this is the Building 102 parking lot expansion. As you can see, the existing building looks like a sort of that triangle is off to the left. We've put in 220, or we're proposing 228 parking spaces. And like Mr. Diaz said, we're just kind of straightening out the lines and trying to park it more efficiently. Access to the property will still be maintained along the access road to the north, right there, where we'll have multiple entrances into the parking lot. Parking lot will then extend east-west as it's shown, and then down on the eastern side of the property. I do want to point out to the commissioners that in the bottom right-hand corner, the southeast corner, we are showing a landscape setback offset of 17.75 in that corner. And the main reason for that is as we get into that lower corner, we do want to maintain two-way traffic along with emergency vehicle access. We do have a plan that's part of the full plan set that shows the vehicular movements of any emergency vehicles coming around the corner, really taking advantage of all that 24 feet. That is just a pinch point that's located on the lot. Otherwise, we are maintaining the 20-foot landscape buffer all up and down that eastern side, separating the residents. As a matter of fact, it widens out, as you can see, as it gets further north along the property. Pedestrian access is proposed along Ideation Way. There is a crosswalk and a sidewalk that will bring you into the property and along all edges of the building to all the entrances. Handicap parking is currently proposed to the east of the property, right in those areas. And finally, we are increasing the impervious, or proposing to increase the impervious, not only to accommodate the parking associated with Building 102, but the eventual and planned, hopefully, pilot plant that will eventually be proposed once it's fully developed, that would go into the south of Building 102. Because of the increase in impervious area and wanting to meet New Jersey DEP stormwater requirements, we are proposing along the southern portion of the parking area underground detention, which will lead into a water quality structure, both of which will meet impervious requirements for the increase on the property. Unless there's specific questions to the site, vehicle access, parking, anything like that, we can certainly bring up the landscaping so the board can see that as well.
Questions, commissioners?
Just on the east side, just to refresh my memory, the change in the parking does not increase or decrease the distance from the parking lot to the property border of the neighbors on, was that Montclair Avenue?
Yes, I believe so. We had, yeah, that's correct.
So
There was a roadway along that edge that we straightened out, correct?
That I recall, that there is a roadway there.
Correct.
And so the distance from that roadway to the property border where the residents are, that distance is the same.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Commissioners? Well, let's hear from the landscape architect, which I think we want to hear about the buffer along that area.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
To the clerk.
Okay, there we go. Good evening. My name's Len Hopper. I'm with Weintraub Diaz Landscape Architecture, and we've developed a planting plan to complement the parking lot improvement at the building. I'm going to take you through general what our design intent was. So one of the factors involved with this parking lot design is that it backs up onto the residential properties immediately to the east. So our design intent, right now there's large existing pine trees that naturally have lost some of their lower branches. So 4, 5, 6 feet up is pretty open to the parking lot and the building. So our design intent was to come in immediately, plant a double staggered row of evergreen material that will be planted at 6 to 7 feet and will immediately block off that open portion below the existing pines, which we've worked around very sensitively to be able to keep those. In front of that, it steps down to some medium height evergreen shrubs, ilex and taxus, that will ultimately grow 5 or 6 feet. And in front of that, a series of deciduous shrubs and lower ground covers that will grow between 18 inches and 3 feet high. So the design intent was to have the screen along the back of the chain link fence adjacent to the residential properties, step down so you provide some texture and some height differences, and then lower planting, adjacent right to the parking lot. The plants are chosen so that there's always an evergreen screen. There's always seasonal interest. So there's interest in not only the spring, which is very easy in summer, but also fall and winter. At some of the bulb outs that you can see, there's Cercis canadensis, eastern redbud. That's more of a flowering tree. And each of the islands within the parking lot are also landscaped with low ground covers and medium height grasses, 2 to 3 feet.
The new plantings that are closest to the residents, what's the maximum height they'll reach?
In this particular case, they'll probably grow between 20 and 25 feet. You know, if they were planted in a park setting, which would be more ideal, they would probably get maybe 40 or 50 feet. But our key there was to start it at the 6 or 7 foot height so that there's an immediate screening, and then the pines above that sort of screen above that.
Because that is very close to the people on Montclair Avenue, so that's important.
We were trying to be very sensitive to sort of mitigating the view of the parking lot and the activity that would happen back there, particularly headlights. And the idea of the double staggered row is that once it grows in, immediately you'll have a screen. Once it grows in, you'll have a very dense screen.
Commissioners?
Just a quick question. And I have to go back to the area. The height of building 111, in relation to now the trees and things that are going to be planted, will they grow as high as the building, lower than building, higher than building?
Well, the trees will go about 30 feet. I'll defer to Gene, who's going to tell you the height of the building.
110 feet.
Yeah, so they're not going to grow 110 feet.
Thank you.
But the idea, again, when you look at it from the perspective of the pedestrian and you're looking up at your line of sight, where you're standing in your backyard will block or not block the view.
Thank you.
Yeah, you said that they'll eventually fill in to get a much denser screen. What's the time frame that we're looking at?
Well, you will have an immediate screen,
Right.
because of the double staggered row. And then probably you're talking, I would say, somewhere in the area of 3 to 5 years before the back row fills in and the front row fills into the back row.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioners? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Diaz?
We don't have any more to present unless, I know Commissioner Petracca, it's nice to see you this time, unless there were any questions from any of the presentation materials that we could continue to answer from 2 weeks ago, we'd be happy to do so or answer any other questions you might have. But that would conclude the rest of the presentation concerning the improvements for this phase of the redevelopment plan for these properties.
Commissioners, anything? Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Just to let you know, we're going to finish our meeting. We're going to go back into executive, and then we'll come back and hopefully introduce the ordinance.
Thanks again for your time. Thank you.
Ordinance. Let's move to ordinance introductions. Commissioner Petracca.
I have an ordinance introduction, 3394, an ordinance to amend an ordinance codified in the Code of Township of Nutley, Chapter 228, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, particularly Article 7. I move that this ordinance be passed to its second reading and advertised in the Nutley Sun together with notice required by law, and that the further consideration of said ordinance for final passage by the Board of Commissioners be held at its second reading on
August 21st.
August 21st.
On August 21st.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Public hearings. Ordinance number 3391, ordinance providing for reconstruction of roadways on Harrison Street, Section 4, in the Township of Nutley, in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $346,605, therefore, from a grant monies received from the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the cost thereof. Anybody like to be heard on ordinance number 3391? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. I move the ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Resolutions, Commissioner Petracco?
Yes, this is a resolution. It's for our municipal alliance. I'll just read it by title, save some time. It's ordinance number 172-18. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Let's go to public comment. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 5 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board shall determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Hello, Commissioners, Mayor. I'm Carol Tangora, and I am a member of the Planning Board. We're here this evening, frankly, to commend you for your long service to this town. It's really very, very much appreciated, and we fully understand the added burden time-wise that has been placed upon you with all of the considerations that you've had to deal with the On3 project. However, the proposal that we sent to you several weeks ago is also important, and I just want to respectfully request a time for when you think it might be put on the agenda.
Ms. Angora, I'm telling you that within the next 2 meetings, it'll be on our agenda.
That
Okay?
sounds wonderful. Thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Tammy Rossi, 28 Colonial Terrace. I just want to clarify Ms. Tangora's inquiry. Was it regarding the definition for mixed use and density?
That is correct, Ms. Rossi.
And it will be on the agenda for the
In
next
the next
one
2
of the
weeks,
next
there'll
two.
be something on the agenda, yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue, and I would like to inquire as to the status of the litigation with the developer. To this point, the developer hasn't been named in this meeting, but I'm curious, is the developer North American Eagle Construction? So that's my first question.
Ms. Salento, I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's no...
The litigation or the...
There is no litigation pending with a developer in the town.
Okay, so 2 meetings ago, we spent 20 minutes, Commissioner Evans answered questions, as did you, Mr. Genetempo. So if there's no litigation pending, what's happening with the investigation in terms of...
That's the proper word. There is no pending...
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not state litigation just out of the blue. That's what Commissioner
I
Evans
never said-
indicated.
I never said
understand you
litigation.
didn't. Commissioner
We're
Evans
trying
did
to
consistently.
We're trying to avoid litigation. We're still in discussions with the developer. We're still doing further investigation. We have not completed it yet. It's very involved, and I'm sure that when we're ready to report, we will report. Commissioner will be able to report to the public what's happening. But right now, we're still in discussions. There's no litigation pending.
Okay, so I'm going to request that you go back and review the minutes from 2 meetings ago and that you specifically correct the record, because there was definitely mention consistently of the word litigation.
Well, we may have
I just
discussed...
need to clarify. All right,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I want to clarify.
Yes,
The
please.
discussion, it basically said it's with legal counsel. It could lead to litigation, and based on what the Mr. Genetempo is saying is it's in discussion. There's a review going on. Counsels are at it. But as far as filing a lawsuit or litigation pending, as a point of clarification, that it has not progressed to that point
Okay.
at this point.
Thank you for that. So if there have been violations of ordinances, I'm not sure how anybody gets to avoid that information actually being made public.
I don't understand your question. What's your question?
Well, you have indicated that there are ongoing discussions. So what would the discussions pertain to if someone has violated an ordinance? Why would there be discussions that are behind closed doors?
Well, first of all, this is a legal matter that may end up in litigation, and as such, I'm not at liberty to discuss the details with you. You obviously know what's going on. You've brought to the attention of the board what you found. We've further investigated that, and when there is time, when we're able to report it, we will. If it ends up in litigation, I don't want to reveal anything that might be prejudicial to the township's position.
Okay, well,
But
that I
just because there's
understand.
violations, you're presuming that we're not acting on violations. We are acting on violations, and we will act on the violations, and we just haven't completed
Right.
our investigation.
And I appreciate that, but please don't indicate that I'm making a presumption. I'm simply repeating what's been stated and noting that that information has not been made public. So I understand if you're trying to preserve the town's position. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I have a related question. There is construction that was initiated on the corner of Center Street and Bloomfield Avenue. Buildings were demolished. Now there's construction fencing with black plastic, and nothing has happened in the past 2 weeks. So is that project on hold? If it's not on hold, what does the town do in terms of ensuring that progress is made? Or are we all going to be made to look at what now is an eyesore?
So the property on the corner of Bloomfield and Center, it's
Yes.
a construction site. There is a photo, a picture up of what that will
Yes.
become. And it's in the stages where they need to get foundation and footing approvals with the code enforcement office. So as they go through that process, you'll see movement on that property, but there are actually phases that they have to go through. So I think you're just looking at the timeline on what it's taking to progress through that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor, if I might. Mr. Lento, I'd just like to clarify my position as far as the developer is concerned and the violations that not only you brought forward, but the ones that have been uncovered to date. I also have serious concerns as to what occurred and, more importantly, what did not occur. But once the commissioner is done with his investigation, all right, then we all will weigh in as to what the proper remedy would be, all right, and what actions to take to assure that something like this never happens again. So, I mean, we have good quality people, how this happened, I don't know if it was errors in judgment or what have you, but whatever it was, once the investigation is completed, there will be full transparency and everyone will know everything that we know.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, Commissioner Tucci, and your concern and the concern of your fellow commissioners. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Joan Rubino, 48 North Road. First of all, the acoustics, I don't know if they're so bad in this room, but most of the time when you people speak, it sounds as if you have marbles in your mouths. Either you have to adjust those mics, it's very difficult to understand what you're saying. Also, I'd like to commend you for starting basically on time. I called several towns, Bloomfield, Belleville, Clifton, and Montclair, and they all start promptly when they're supposed to start. So I had told you I would get in touch with people about that. I have a question about the situation with the marijuana. I don't know if you have already proposed or if you intend to propose some kind of an ordinance to prohibit marijuana shops in the town of Nutley. Other communities evidently are doing that kind of thing, and I think it might be something to consider if you haven't already done that.
Mrs. Rubino, are you referencing all marijuana or recreational or medical?
All marijuana.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Rubino, I'll address that because I have been doing some thinking about this and some research. When it comes to medical marijuana, I do not know how much leverage we have, but I believe that we're going to have to make a decision with regard to the sale of marijuana within a distance of a school. Frankly, I don't like the idea of it being sold anywhere. My years in law enforcement tells me that access to recreational marijuana could cause a lot of problems. Young people will be able to get this stuff. So we have a responsibility, all right, to at least have some control over it. But my concern right now is when we address this issue, we're going to have to look at where schools are, and we're going to have to talk about how many feet are we going to allow? What will the distance be? I don't think constitutional we can stop it. That, Counselor, that's something that maybe you could weigh in on.
Well, we haven't done any research on what's going to happen, but when the state passes a law, there will be direction for municipalities as to what they can rule on in their own jurisdictions. But right now, there are no rules, and they're not looking to pass it, from what I'm hearing. So until that happens, we won't know what the parameters are.
But at least you know we're thinking about it, and it's something that we're concerned about also.
Yes, the thing is, people will be able to go to surrounding communities and buy it, but my point is we should not be selling it in our community. And as I said, I've been reading certain things, you know, in newspaper, I don't know how true it is, but some communities have already established that they will not allow those shops in their town.
Except you may find that drugstores, you see, as the counselor said, we don't, you know, they may be able to sell for medical. Look, I believe in marijuana used for medical purposes. No doubt about it.
That's a whole different ballgame with the drugstore selling it.
And you know, my concern is, and I'm sure it's your concern, is what will our leverage be to prevent a marijuana store from opening up across the street from a school, for example?
You know,
I am very concerned about that.
Well, you know, this business about 10 feet from here, you know, no guns within this, you know, I don't think it makes very much of a difference. I mean, you can put all that down. I think that you have to prohibit it completely. That's my opinion. But as you said, it might be something that the state will say you cannot do.
Mr. Rubino, as they move forward with the legislation, and it's not moving anywhere now, there'll be some more clarity on what they're actually proposing. Right now, you know, the governor, when he ran, proposed it, and it hasn't gone anywhere since then. So we're cognizant of it, but it's hard to outlaw something that's not even available.
Well, it's something to think about.
Right, absolutely. And we are thinking.
And there was a huge article in the Star Ledger maybe a month ago about the whole situation. So it's definitely something to keep on the front burner, not the back.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening? Seeing none, could I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss?
Make that motion.
Mr. Genetempo, pending litigation?
Pending litigation, contractual negotiations.
And personnel.
I make the motion.
Second.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975 permits the exclusion of the public for meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas the public is of the opinion that such circumstances exist. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley in the County of Essex and State of New Jersey desires to proceed to close executive session. And now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley move into closed executive session to discuss contract negotiations, potential litigation, and personnel. Be it further resolved that at a time when such discussion may be disclosed to the public shall be when and such disclosure may be made without adversely affecting the Township of Nutley, pending and/or anticipated legal, personnel, contractual matters, and other matters within the exceptions provided for by statute. Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
The time is 8:24.
We will be coming back, and we may or may not be taking action. Thank you.
Sassy, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Can I pause? Are they pausing or they don't? Pause. Pause and stay. We shouldn't be long. About 20 minutes. Yeah. Pause and stay. I am okay. I got like 52 things going on at the same time. But we're good. All right? Time's up. Time is up.